Hello and welcome to Now You're Cooking. My name is Charlie Fear and we're coming to you live from the wine section. We're not doing our in-person wine tastings yet, but we are coming to you to share a few wines that you may consider for Valentine's Day. And I'm joined again by Colleen from SoPo. Thanks for joining us, Colleen.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Really excited to try these wines this evening, and they're all from a similar place, a very exciting place. Not only are they all from Spain, but they're all from the northeast of Spain. So, can you tell us a little bit about why are we traveling to the northeast of Spain?
So I think for Spain is so interesting because there's so many different styles of wine that are produced in Spain, not just along the eastern coast, but kind of just broadly all over. They have sparkling wine, they have really beautiful white wines, and they have some really nice light and bold red ones, which we'll try today.
Cool.
And then they also have sherries and fortified wines. So, but with Valentine's Day, I just kind of wanted to stick to wines that will kind of pair with whatever maybe you're having for dinner, or just whatever you're having for appetizers. And sparkling wine is always really fun and festive. And then white wine, it's always nice to have a nice white wine on the table. Especially with like shellfish and seafood, but we'll talk about that later. And then just having a nice kind of bold, kind of like, I don't know, sexy red for Valentine's Day.
Awesome. Perfect. So shall we jump right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah. We're doing the Biutiful, the Cava. So Cava is a style of sparkling wine that's made in Spain. And it's made the same way that champagne is made. So it goes through a secondary fermentation in the bottle. It starts off as kind of a still white wine, and then they kickstart the secondary fermentation in the bottle to get those really, really fizzy big bubbles. And this is actually from, so the two wines that we have, the white and the red, are both from Catalunya, which is just outside of Barcelona. I won't be a jerk. But the Cava region is mostly from the Barcelona region, but then there are also other pockets of Cava production.
Okay.
And so this is one of those little pockets that's lesser known that is still on the eastern side, so just south of Catalunya, but not in that specific region.
So, with Spain, we're going to talk a little bit about more about where all of these wines are from. But in Spain, like with old world wines, we're talking about the regions. When we talk about the type of wine, we're talking about the regions rather than the grape, the way we would with domestic wines.
Yep, for sure.
All right. So, how would this? What sort of things am I looking for with this one? How would this compare? So, it uses a similar, if not the same, method to champagne.
Yep.
How is this going to differ or be similar to a champagne?
Yeah, so I think the fizziness and the texture of the bubbles is going to be quite similar. This specific Cava is aged for at least a year in bottle, and it's aged on the lees, which are the dead yeast cells that kind of linger at the bottom of the barrel or the tank. And when you stir the lees, you get that really nice texture. So you'll get similar texture, but with Cava, you'll get a little bit more minerality, a little bit more chalkiness to it. And then this one is a brut style, so it's not bone dry, but it's not sweet. So if you're looking for that breadiness that's associated with champagne, you're not going to get as much breadiness with this one? Maybe not quite this one in particular, but they do have Reservas and Grand Reserva Cavas, which are aged a little bit longer, so those will have a little bit more finesse and a little bit more breadth.
Okay.
And they're still going to be a fraction of the price of champagne.
Perfect.
Which is another reason why Cava is so great.
Yeah. So this one in particular, I forgot to mention, all of these wines are going to be on a promotional price through Valentine's Day. So this one's going to be $12.99, which is such a great price for, well, let's find out how tasty it is.
Cheers.
That's very drinkable.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you get that creaminess, but really nice acidity, which will go with a lot of different things. So kind of for Valentine's Day, everyone does something a little bit different, but sometimes there's oysters involved, or cheese and crackers, or charcuterie. So this will go really well with all of those things.
Perfect.
And I mean, you can start the meal with this, you can end the meal with this. I mean, this is kind of, it's very versatile. So
You don't even have to have a meal at all.
I know. You could have it for brunch in the morning as a mimosa, add a little bit of juice to it. It's really great.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I'm going to take one more tiny sip before we move on to the next one.
Do it.
I can't help it.
It's that good. This is one of those wines that I just like to smell too. It just has a really nice aroma to it.
It's a good all-rounder.
Yeah.
Good on the nose.
Yeah.
Good on the tongue. Good on the wallet.
We love all of those things.
And so with this one, this one's a non-vintage or an NV.
Yep.
So it doesn't have a specific year. Remind me what that means when we're talking about sparkling wines?
Yeah. So one of the things about sparkling wines that makes it, at least in Champagne, so expensive is that the non-vintage. It just means that there's a perpetual blend of vintages happening. So a lot of these wineries will literally harvest vintage after vintage or year after year, and they'll just store everything all at once, and that creates just a really consistent product year to year. So if you see a vintage on a sparkling bottle of wine, it kind of indicates that it was a really special year, and it's usually a really special bottle of sparkling wine.
So it's when you see that date, it's worth shelling out for that one.
Yeah, for sure. But non-vintage doesn't mean that it's lower quality at all. Again, Champagne, I mean, they're known for the non-vintage, is that perpetual cuvee. So again, they're just trying to make a really consistent product year after year.
Awesome.
And it's just a really cool fun fact that sometimes, especially in Champagne, some of the vintages go back sometimes like 10 or more years. So it's just really cool. You get a little bit of history.
Yeah, you're drinking history.
Yes.
Moving on to our second bottle, we've got another white wine. So this one we've chilled both the sparkling and this white one. What do we have here?
Yeah, so I may be butchering the pronunciation of this. So this is Catalan. So it's from the Catalunya region of Barcelona. And so, yeah, this is a really nice white wine. This is actually a blend of grapes that are typically used in Cava production, but not the same grapes that are used in this Cava in particular.
Okay.
So this one it's mostly Malvazia, or also called Viura and Chardonnay. And then this is a little bit of Malvazia, or Macabeo, Chardonnay. And then there is a little bit of Malvazia in this blend.
Okay.
Which makes it kind of interesting. It's a very, very small amount, but the Malvazia just adds a little bit of sweetness to it. It really just rounds it out. There's really great acidity to it. There is a little bit of Chardonnay in here too, and Charolais, which is a grape that's used in Cava production, and Parellada, which is another grape that's used in Cava production.
It's a lot of grapes to remember.
Yeah, I know. Can you tell I'm like struggling?
And so I think this is from I think it's pronounced Huguet family.
Yes.
And it's specifically in the Feixes state in the Penedès. I think it's Penedès.
Penedès.
There's not the sound that you get in Portugal.
Yeah. So Penedès, which is an area within the Catalan region, or Catalunya. Yeah. Yep, and they're famous for, again, Cava production. So for some reason, if you don't like sparkling wines, this is just kind of a still version of Cava. So it has a really nice acidity, but with the Chardonnay and with the Macabeo, you get a little bit of body to it without being heavy. I mean, this is all stainless steel, so it's very crisp. And then the Malvazia, it's a strain or type of Malvazia that is very specific to Spain, and it's very, very rare. It almost kind of went away forever. So the Huguet family are one of the very few producers that still grow this wine. Right. So it's really cool. And again, it's a very small amount, but it's kind of just fun and interesting that they added in there.
So something that I think about with the Penedès region, I feel like Spain is such a large wine producer. I don't think everybody is aware of that. And for people who do know a little bit about Spain wine, they probably are familiar with the Rioja region,
yes,
and not necessarily as many of the other regions. So what sets this region apart from the Rioja region?
Well, specifically Penedès is mostly known for white wines, where Rioja they certainly make white wine, but they're not known for their white wine. They're known for their red wines. And the red wines are pretty dominantly Tempranillo based. And Rioja is actually one of the few regions that requires American oak. So in their red Riojas, it's a very distinct flavor profile where it's vanilla, you get that oak, you get a little bit of that coconut cream in the red wines, which some people love that, some people don't.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the two like big separators between the two, aside from terrain as well. They're pretty far apart, but
A little bit different geography.
yeah.
Different predominant grapes that they're using.
Yep, different styles for
Different
sure.
styles.
Different regulations, yeah. Yep. For me, it's like lemon or lime. Again, it's very acidic or acided. Acid forward. There we go. So again, shellfish, pastas, cheeses, goat cheeses, creamy sauces. I think this is going to go really well.
It's got a little bit of a saltiness on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well, that's going to pair well with those things.
Yeah, it's got a little brininess for sure. Yeah, and this is all organically farmed too. It's all estate fruit. They're a pretty small producer as well, so. And even though they're similar grapes between these two, it's very different, I find.
Yeah.
Less chalky, but you still get that really nice brightness from this wine.
It's another really delicious wine.
Yeah.
And that one we have at $17.99 on promotion.
What a bargain.
So good. And you talked a little bit about what you would serve with this, the cheeses, the seafood.
Yeah, for
perfect.
sure. Or, light pasta dishes for sure too.
Great.
Yep. Or anything.
Or all three together, pasta, cheese, and seafood.
Yes. Just combine them all together. Make it easy for yourself.
So a third bottle.
Yes.
We're moving away from the white wines to a red wine, and like you were talking about before, this one is big and bold. I think you used the word sexy. So this is the the sexiest wine of our lineup. And it's from the Priorat region. So it's another region that I've heard, but I'm less familiar with in the Rioja region. What sets that one apart from Rioja?
Yeah, so Priorat, originally they have a really long wine growing history, but they're one of the many regions in Europe and in Spain that were hit pretty hard with phylloxera. Okay. Which phylloxera is, if you haven't heard about it, it's it's like a louse or insect that literally decimates the entire rootstock of the vine. So it's terrible. And I think something like 70% of Europe's wine or grapes were lost. It's actually why you see some grapes like French or Spain varietals or European varietals in places like Chile, which is kind of interesting because people were just trying to like literally uproot their vines to save them.
Evacuate them.
Yeah, evacuate them, and preserve them. So, phylloxera hit, wiped out the area, and Priorat is very rugged. It's a very rugged and difficult terrain, and the soil is terrible. It's crap, which makes it great for grapes.
This is good. The grapes need to struggle.
Yeah, really struggle. Grapes and olives love bad dirt. So when phylloxera hit, people just kind of left, and they literally kind of deserted the area. And it wasn't until so phylloxera was like 1800s, early 1900s, and it wasn't until like the 1980s until when wine growers started to go back there and kind of rework the area and kind of literally show affection and love to this great place where Carignan or Carignana, is what the Spanish call Carignan, and Garnacha are really well known in that area. And now Priorat is like one of the most expensive wine regions in Spain. So it's like kind of up there with Rioja.
It's like it's both an incredibly historic region while also being very young at the same time.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
really interesting.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of producers were starting to bring French varietals into the area, like Cab and Syrah, Merlot. But now, now that Priorat has kind of established itself again, they're sort of trying to wean out those French varietals and really focus on Spanish varietals, like the Carignan and
Go back
the
to their
Garnacha.
roots. If you will.
Yes. So this blend is primarily Garnacha or Grenache, is what the French call it, or what everyone else calls it. And then Carignana, but there is a little bit of Cab and a little bit of Merlot in there too. But as the vintages progress, Álvaro Palacios, which is the winemaker, he's going to kind of wean those out of the blend.
So a few years down the line, we're not going to see Merlot and Cab in there necessarily.
Maybe not, yeah. And if you do, it'll probably just be a little bit less, which is really cool.
Great.
Kind of like, again, sticking to their roots.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So, just looking at the back of our two white wines, talking about why this is so bold. The Biutiful is an 11.5 alcohol by volume, and the Feixes is 12%. And I look at the back here, and we've got a 14.1 to 16%. We were talking about this before we went live, that we don't often see that little range, and you also don't typically see that high in alcohol by volume. So we're looking at a pretty powerful wine here.
Yeah. Yes, and so Priorat is, they're known for their really bold, really intense red wines. We just opened this wine too, so if you do have this wine at home, decant it if you can, or just open it like a couple of hours before. But the cool thing about it is that you will see the progression in the glass, which is really nice. But yeah, Priorat's known for, again, kind of high tannin, high acid, a little bit higher alcohol, which make them really great to age too. So if you want to save this for an anniversary or something too, you can. But this particular wine from Álvaro Palacios, the Camins del Priorat is what it's called. This is made to kind of be a stepping stone into Priorat, because Priorat wines are just very expensive these days, and this is under $30, I think.
We've got it at $23.99.
Yeah, it's a killer price point, because oftentimes, again, he has some bottles that are like $500, $800.
So this is the one that's like, won't you join us?
Yeah,
come on in. The water's fine.
Yes, exactly. Spend more money on Priorat wine.
So I'm going to take a sip of this.
Yeah.
And then I'd love to hear, what am I pairing with this one? Because I'm probably doing something a little bit different than I did with these first two wines.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think, prime rib, something really fatty, beef bourguignon, also bucco. You can do, it doesn't have to be meat, but something maybe that's smoked, something that's maybe a little fatty. You want this wine to kind of cut through. You could maybe do like a red tomato sauce pasta dish too, or like a bolognese maybe. But again, you'd want to decant the crap out of it and really get it as loose and ready as possible.
Well, that makes me think, I know this might not be like perfect wine etiquette or anything, but I find sometimes with some of these bolder wines that like do well with decanting, that if I drink a little bit that first night, put the cork back in, revisit it the next day.
Totally.
I get a whole nother experience, and it's sometimes even more enjoyable that second day because it's had that more time to like get some air in and sort of relax a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. And Priorat reds are really known for what they call like black minerality, and it's really coming from like the slate soil. And there's a really cool term that I love, and it's called Petrichor. And Petrichor is the scent of, it's like an earthy scent that you get when, like, in the summertime, you have your gravel driveway or your paved driveway and it's really, really hot, but then it rains.
Oh, yeah.
That smell, that black minerality, that's really, like, Priorat reds are known for that Petrichor smell, and that Petrichor kind of flavor. So even though it's a red wine, it does again have kind of that minerality that you have in the first two.
And that's because it's in that sort of northeastern region, coming from those soils.
Yeah, coming from the soils, like the gravel, it just kind of lends itself to this really cool characteristic that's from this, from this region.
Well, cheers! I'm going to take one more sip.
Yeah, please.
So good.
It's bold, but it's really smooth. I just love, it's so dark in color, like you can't see through it, but it's very kind of like garnet ruby purple. This will stain your teeth like no one's business.
Yeah, I feel
very sexy stuff.
I feel like sometimes with wines like this, like it can be sort of a tongue destroyer, not palate destroyer, but like it can
wear you down.
Sort of suck the moisture out of your mouth, and I don't get that with this wine.
Yeah. I think if you drank like 2 whole glasses without eating anything, you'd definitely be. But that's
enjoy with food.
But that's what makes it a great food wine, is that it just really goes well. Yep.
Well, these have all been delicious wines, and we've got a little throwback to the last wine tasting that we did together back in December. You'll remember that we had the Kush wine from Armenia. That was a delicious non-vintage sparkling wine, and we actually just got in the Kush Ultra. Do you want to tell us about that one? Because that one's a pretty special wine as well.
Yeah. So we just got this in. We only got about 7 cases of each. I say we as in the distributor, but you guys have a case, which is awesome. So this is really special because it's a vintage, like we were talking about earlier. So this is a 2017 vintage, so it's been aged on the lees for at least like 2 or 3 years, which is really cool. So again, you have that really nice yeasty character to it. And it's a Blanc de Noir, which is really cool. So
yeah, tell me. I've heard Blanc de Blanc and I've heard de Blanc de Noir. What does that mean?
So Blanc de Noir is literally a white wine, sparkling or still, that's been made from red-skinned grapes or dark-skinned grapes. So red wine grapes making a white wine. So you can have Blanc de Noirs as a white wine. It's just more rare. They're usually made in sparkling wines. So this is a Blanc de Noir. So it's made from a grape called Areni, which is indigenous to Armenia. And so it's 100% Areni, which is just really cool.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So Areni is sort of like a Syrah, or it's been described as maybe like a Merlot and Pinot Noir baby. So it's very thick-skinned. And it just has a really cool flavor profile. It is a brut style, so it's not sweet. And it just has a really long, lingering finish. It's almost kind of smoky, a little herbaceous.
Why aren't we trying this one?
I know. Well, it's not cold enough. Otherwise, I'd just crack it open, but it would explode all over the place. But yeah, it's a really cool wine. We don't have a ton of it. It is special, and yeah, it's also a fraction of the cost of champagne.
Yeah, you're going to want to get that quick if that's sounding tasty to you. And I know it's definitely sounding tasty to me.
Yeah, for sure. And again, there's that main connection with the Kush wines too, where the Vahe Kushgarian, so Kush for short, his family kind of grew up in the Mid-Coast region. Not his family, but his children kind of spent a lot of time in Damariscotta. So it's just a really cool kind of like main connection that we have, and the wines are just stunning. And so we've had the origins for a while. We were out, now it's back, and then again we got a little small drop of the other stuff that they make. So yeah, super exciting.
Don't hesitate to hop on that one.
No.
I want to say thank you again for coming in.
Yeah.
I have so much fun, and I learn so much when we're drinking wine together. So this is great.
Yeah.
And I want to remind folks that these 3 wines are the ones that are on our promotional price through February 14th, Valentine's Day. So I wouldn't wait until the last second in case they're all gone. But you do have some time to pick these up at a really great price. They're really, really delicious. But until next time, enjoy.
Bye.